Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay. So good day, everyone. Good day, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another Microsoft Excel session brought to you by your business. So for today's topic, we'll be having Power Query Editor. Talking about Power Query Editor, which is hosted by, which is going to be presented by Sanjay Chandra. So I'll talk about our company, your business. So your business is a registered Microsoft Excel consulting, financial modeling, business intelligence, data analysis, and enterprise solution firm in Nigeria. We also specialize in helping companies and high-value professionals be on top of the business data. We're also the developer of some tools such as the Nigerian Finance Market Analysis tools you can find on Microsoft Office Store, and also the developer of Nigerian Stock Analysis Dashboard. As you all know, we're also a training company in Lagos, Nigeria. So this is our calendar for upcoming training. So on the 4th of October, we're having Python for data analysis. On the 7th of October, we're having in-depth Excel training, executive dashboard, and business data analysis. On the 13th of October, which on the Thursday, we're having business intelligence and dashboard using Microsoft Power BI. That's for the BI people, BI analysts. So I'll give a brief profile about our special guest, Sanjay Chandra. He's a business intelligence analyst. He also has an electronic degree and also an MBA by qualification. He focuses on Microsoft Office and also Microsoft Power Platform. He has over 4.5 years of work experience in corporate finance, business intelligence, analytics, and also general management. So with no other, I'll hand over the session to Chandra. So Chandra, over to you. I'll stop sharing my screen right about now. So stop sharing my screen.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm sharing my screen. Let me know if you're able to see. Is my screen visible?
Not yet.
Okay. Let me know once it is visible.
Okay.
Or let me reshare. Just give me a moment. I'll reshare it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now?
Not yet. Not yet. It's still not visible. Are you using the Teams app or you're using from the web?
I'm using from the web. The Teams app I'm unable to
Okay.
join, so I am using the web version. Are you able to see the screen?
No, it's not yet up. Everyone is saying up. Not yet up.
Okay. Let me do one thing. Let me rejoin. I'll just
Okay.
join again.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Sanjay will join us very soon. Just give him a couple of minutes. I think he's having issues with connecting to be sharing his screen. But he will join us very soon. Now we can continue the section. Okay, I think it's in. Oh. So come in. Sanjay, where are you? Oh, I can't find Sanjay. Where is Sanjay? Just give me a second. So Sanjay, okay. Hello, can you say something?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, it's
fine.
visible now.
Let
Visible.
me share. Yeah, let me share my screen. Now is my screen visible?
Not yet. But I can see your face now, but your screen is not visible.
Okay.
If
I'm
anyone
using
can
Teams
see
app now.
okay, if anyone can see the screen, no, okay, people are saying no.
Okay, maybe
Okay. No,
maybe
just
30
take your time.
seconds.
Take your time.
You could also
Let me
try
share. I'm not sure.
sharing the entire window. Like maybe, I don't know what option you picked in the sharing screen, but try the one that.
Yeah, I'm now using on the Teams app. I'm sharing the screen.
Strange.
Just take your time to come up very soon. So you're using the web version, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
No. Now I'm using app.
you guys using the app now,
Is it?
right? Okay.
Earlier I used web version.
Okay. So now when you're trying to share, you're going to have two options. You're going to have
Okay.
share screen and share window. So click on the share screen.
Yeah. Don't share. It shows I have shared the. Or shall I join it the web version again?
I honestly I don't know right now.
Wait, I will rejoin using web version again. We can
Okay,
try
no problem.
once
No
again.
problem. No
Normally,
problem.
Let me rejoin on the web version. We can try one.
Okay.
Temidayo, does my own screen shows? Okay.
Yeah, yours is
So that
fine.
means, okay. The screen is showing. Okay, good. All right. At least that's one test.
I'm sorry about that. You come. He's going to join very soon. I'll continue. Okay, I think Sanjay is in again. Okay, let me see. Sanjay. Okay. I think you're in thoughts. Okay.
Okay, let me share the screen. Now I'm again back to web version.
Okay.
Let me know if you are able to see my screen. It says teams.microsoft.com is sharing your screen.
Okay. Yeah, it's up now. It's up. It's up.
You can see my screen?
Yes, it's up. Yes. You've opened Excel.
Yeah, correct. Okay, fine. Okay, so good evening and good morning and good afternoon, everyone around the world. So today what I'll do is I'll walk you through some of the mini case studies on Power Query, like how Power Query can really help you. So first, let me walk you through one very common scenario where you will keep on getting data from different sources, right? Now let's imagine you have some sales data which is coming every month from some email or probably from SAP or somewhere. And you have to just so let's say you have different files like this. So imagine you have the sales of January 2020, and then later you will get February, March, April, May. So you'll get different files. So one thing what Power Query can do is, so let me show this. So here what you can do is you can say from folder, and then you can actually select this folder, and I will show what exactly you can do with Power Query. Once I'll get into the Power Query window, and then you'll be able to understand. So now what I have done is I have pointed out to the sales folder. So this sales folder right now has only January data, January 2020. So what I have done is I have pointed Power Query to that folder, And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the data from that particular folder. So these are just transformations. Everything will be done by Power Query. You don't need to write any kind of code. And then you can see there is the data from January 2020. Now let's say what happens after a few months, you'll get more data, right? So let's say February data also comes here. Then March data also comes. So now you have January, February, March, 3 months of data. So here what I can do is I'll simply go and refresh it, and I got my February and March data. So I have automated it basically. I don't need to go to each and every Excel file like this. I don't need to open, and then I don't need to bring all the data manually. So let's say if I put April and May also inside the same folder, right now you can see there are only 3 months, January, February and March. Now again, if I click refresh, it will bring April and May data as well. So the point of this is you can have multiple Excel files. So all you need to do is you have to point out Power Query to one folder, and whatever Excel files will come into that folder, it will automatically take the data and give you in a single table. So that is a major advantage of using Power Query. Now, what is the use case of this is, one is sales data or any kind of data which you get every month, every week or every month. And the second use case is, let's say you're in HR department and every month you will get the list of employees or something like that. If you want to maintain a track record, you can do that as well. And this is something which can come very handy to automate your process. So once you set these things up in Power Query, you don't need to again repeat the steps. On the right side in Power Query, what happens is all the steps, whatever were applied, are already recorded. On the right side, you can see. So once you apply these steps, you don't need to wait. Everything is automatically applied. Every time what you have to do is come to this place and click on refresh and your data will be ready. You don't need to again go back and do any kind of manual work. So this will save you a lot of time in terms of automation, right? Of course, you can use VBA as well, but in VBA it involves writing code, and also you need to have that knowledge of how to handle the VBA. In Power Query, the best part is you don't need to write any code. I mean, for advanced things you can write a code, but for very basic tasks, even non-IT people can use it. Like, you need to be a business user. You don't need to be someone from IT background to use it. So that is the major advantage of it. Now, if you look at the original data, so let me say close and load. All my data is loaded now here into a single place. It has come. But if you look at the original data, I have one data in February. Similarly, my January has data in the same structure. So the only constraint which you need to have is there are some rules which you have to remember. Now, what are the rules are? First thing is file names can be different. Okay. So for example, if you look at these files, each file has a different name. There is no issue with the file name. But the second thing should be file structure should be same. So for example, if I open one of the files, my data starts from cell A1. So A1 has region and B1 has the sales. So I have these two. So let me zoom in. So I have A1 and A1 and B1 as my headers. These two headers are there, and this is all data. So the structure should be same. When I say structure, the number of records can be any number. So for example, you can have 100 records, 200, 300 records. There is no issue with respect to rows. When I say same structure, the column should be same. So you have region and sales here. This is in April. And if I open, let's say February data. So here also you can have the same kind. Here also you have the same kind of structure. So you have region and you have sales, and both are present located in the same way, right? In the same position. So that is important. Your file names can be different, but your file structure should be the same. And all files should be in same folder. And fourth one is column order can be different. So these are some things which require a little bit of practice. Initially it can be confusing, but once you get a hang of it, it is very easy to remember. So all files should be in the same folder, in a single folder, and column order can be different. For example, in one file, you can have region and sales. In another file, you can have sales and region. The column order doesn't matter, right? So two things don't matter. File name can be different, column order can be different, but file structure and column names both have to be same. So if I have to summarize, column name and file structure have to be same. File name and column order, these can be different, right? So column name and file structure can be same, but file name and column order can be different. So there is no restriction with this. Only restriction is this. This is the restriction. If your files are able to match this criteria, you can automate everything using Power Query. Now you might be asking, what is the limit of this? Like how many rows of data you can get? In Power Query, there is no limit. You can have even 16 million rows, 4 million rows, 10 million rows, even 100 million rows. There is no limit with respect to how many rows Power Query can handle. For example, if you look at worksheet, Excel worksheet, it supports around 1 million rows, right? Each worksheet. But when it comes to Power Query, there is no restriction of only 1 million. Power Query can handle as many files as your computer can handle. So memory is the only constraint. So for example, if you have 16 million rows, maybe 16 GB of RAM or 32 GB of RAM may not be able to handle that much of data. But the point is, Power Query has no limit in terms of how many rows it can handle. You can even give 2000 files to Power Query and it will take all the 2000 files and combine them and give it to you. So with respect to limitations, it goes beyond Excel. So traditionally, Excel has 1 million row limit. I mean, if you are using 2016 or 2019 version, but with Power Query, there is no limit. And Power Query is supported from 2010 version of Excel onwards. So if you are using 2013, 16, 19, or even Office 365, Power Query is accessible and it has no limits. So that is one of the examples where Power Query can be very impactful, and also it can compete with other tools. And the best part about Power Query is you can actually take data from different sources. So for example, you can see it supports a lot of databases. So you can use SQL Server as your data source, and you can take data from Azure, even AWS as well, and you can take it from Power Platform. You can also use local formats. Now another thing what you can do is, sometimes you may have data in PDF, right? Power Query even supports PDF format as well. If you have some data in PDF, you can use Power Query to take and extract the data from PDF and convert it in Excel format. Even PDF is also supported. And of course, SharePoint. So if you are working in any organization, SharePoint is something which many organizations use. Even SharePoint is also supported. So like that, you can use Power Query to take data from any source, right? So these are some of the sources which are supported by Power Query. And Power Query, the advantage of learning Power Query is the same Power Query is also present in Power BI. So if you learn Power Query in Excel, the Power Query in Power BI is exactly the same. You don't need to relearn it again. So the learning curve will become easier. So if you are trying to learn Power Query in Excel, so that can be a very good starting point if you are planning to upskill yourself in Power Platform. And also one more thing which I want to showcase is, so this is one case study where you can combine different files. The second case study which I want to talk about today is web scraping, right? So let's say you have some Wikipedia page. So let's say I'm talking about Wikipedia page about currencies. So I'll go to Wikipedia page, list of currencies. So I'm in this page, and different countries have different currencies, right? And they have different symbols also. Now let's say I want this table to come to Excel. Now you might say, Sanjay, like, can't I simply go here and copy this file and get it like this, for example? You can simply copy this file. You can copy everything. Just okay. You can copy everything and you can put it, right? So it is easy. But the point is, let's say in Wikipedia page, tomorrow someone updates it. Let's say some country has announced a new currency. Then what will happen is, whatever data you pasted it manually like this will not get updated. So this data, whatever I copy pasted, this will become static data. It is not dynamic data. If you want dynamic data, if you want to connect this entire data into the Wikipedia page itself, so that tomorrow when someone updates the data, you can also get the update in your Excel file. If you wanted dynamic data, then what you can do is you can do web scraping. So how can you do web scraping is, copy the URL. So for example, I'm copying the Wikipedia URL. Then I'll go to get data, and probably here also you can say there is something called from web, or you can also go here and say from web. So two options are available. So you click on from web and then paste it and click OK. And now it will ask you, how do you want to access this data? Because Wikipedia is a public source, you can actually use anonymous, like you can access it anonymously like a public person. And you click connect. And when you click connect, it will show a dialog box showing what all contents are there in that particular URL, in that particular page. So it will take time. It is trying to analyze the data behind the web page, and then it will give you a dialog box. Right? So it is right now analyzing. It is connecting to that. It is establishing a connection. So let's wait for it. And once it loads, I'll show you what we can do. I think there is some issue. Just let me try that again. It shouldn't take this much of time. It should come in 1 minute. But let's wait and see. Okay, let me try that again. There could be some issue with my internet. Yeah, it has come. See. So here there is a table called list of circulating currencies. This is the one which has ISO code, fractional unit, number to basic. So here you can see this is the table which I am referring to. So this is the table, right? ISO, fractional unit and everything. And I'm selecting this and clicking transform. So once I click transform, it will take me to Power Query window. And here you can see everything, whatever you are seeing there, you can see this. Now, if you see there is a duplication. The header and the first row are duplicates. You can see here, right? So what I'll simply do is I can remove this. I will say remove row, remove the top row, and I'm removing the first row. Now, if I say close and load, now my data is here. So tomorrow in Wikipedia, if someone updates the page, I can come to Excel, and if I click refresh, all my data gets updated and I'll get all my data here. So whatever you're seeing here is directly connected to Wikipedia page. This is not something which is local, right? So Power Query is trying to pull the data directly from the web source itself, from this page. So this is one example of web scraping, like how you can easily do web scraping and get all the data you want just with one click of a button without writing any code. For example, if you are using Python, you can probably use Beautiful Soup, and also there are some other libraries. But in Power Query, it is straightforward. And the same functionality is available both on Excel and Power BI because Power Query is the same. So you don't need to again relearn Power Query if you are using Power BI. The same functions will work. So this is the second case study where you can actually get the data using web scraping. Now the third example which I want to give you is also web scraping. So basically that is about API. So most of you might have heard API, application programming interface. Now let's say there is a Twitter application. Now you can see, I mean, if you go to Play Store or App Store, if you type Twitter, you can find many Twitter apps, right? There is an official Twitter app which is released by the company, and also you have third-party apps. For example, there will be some developers who will be making their own Twitter app. Now, how someone is able to access the data of Twitter? Like how is someone able to build a separate app for Twitter, like a third party? That is only possible through something called API. API means what? API in simple layman terms, what API means is whatever data is there in the server, you will be able to access that data. So just to give you an example, let's say you want to build a Twitter app. So what you can do is you can register yourself as a Twitter developer, and then you will get an API key. Using that API key, you can get all the data from Twitter, and then you can build your own app and release it on the App Store. So what API will do is, rather than you going to SQL Server and taking the data, using that API key, you can actually go to any web source and you can actually directly connect to it. And of course, there will be some limitations. So if you are using free version of an API, maybe monthly you can use it 1,000 times or maybe 2,000 times. There is always some restriction which is applied. So a lot of companies earn a lot of money through API. And in India, there is API banking, which is getting very popular. A lot of banks are using this API banking to make this to offer better services. So I'll show a demo right now how the API works in Power Query in Excel, and you will be able to understand what API means. Now, if you look at this, this is actually Ministry of Power, Government of India. So this is Central Electricity Authority. Now, what Central Electricity Authority will do is it will actually give a lot of data related to the energy department, right? So you have different power sources, right? You have nuclear power, hydropower, then you have renewable energy sources like wind turbines, you have coal, oil, gas, all these things will be there. So what this website will do is they actually created an API. This is an open API. For this, you don't require any kind of password, login, nothing. Anyone can access this. So if you look at this, they are providing many APIs. If you look at this, there are more than 10 APIs which Ministry of Power is providing officially for the public. So this is for educational and research purposes. And if you look at this, let's say I want to extract this data, installed capacity state-wise. And if I click on this, it is showing a lot of data like this. It is actually showing like this. There are no tables. It is something in some machine format. So this format, whichever you're seeing on my screen, is called Json. So Json means, so let me talk about it. Generally, when you talk about API, either you will get data in Json format or you will get it in XML format. So Json means JavaScript object notation, right? So generally Json is popular more than, I mean, XML is also there, but generally most of the APIs will give you data in Json. Now, when you talk about APIs, you have YouTube API, you have OMDB API, then you have a Twitter API. So like this, you have different APIs which are available. So right now, what I'm showing you is this API provided by Ministry of Power, Government of India. So how to get this data into Power BI? So what happens is every month, here you have January data, right? And if I scroll down, there is a lot of data here. Here it is showing July data. Next month, when I come to this website, they'll also update the latest data, like they will update the August data. And after 2 more months, again, they'll update the data. This data will keep on increasing. So what I can do is if I simply copy paste it, it will become static data, like I showed you again. What we need is a dynamic data. We want to connect directly to the source. To do that, what we can do is I can copy this and go here, and I will say from other sources, and then I can say blank query. And in the blank query, I can go here and I can say web.contents, and I'm putting this in the brackets, I mean in the double quotes, and it is asking for credentials, and I will say I want to access this anonymously. I'll click OK. So I will just see what is there. I think there is an issue, as you can see here, there is an issue with the security. The connection to the site, some certification validity is gone, but otherwise it will just work fine. This is the only example I have right now. There seems to be some issue with the security certificate. So what you can do is you can write a code like this, a small code, probably 1 line of code, and then you can actually get this entire data in tabular format. Right now it is in JSON. From JSON we can convert it into a table. So with that, what we can do, we can directly connect this data into Power Query and get the data directly from Government of India. There are no intermediaries involved, right? So whatever data which you will get directly here is from official source. So this is one of the examples how you can actually use Power Query. Right now there seems to be some issue with the security protocol. Otherwise this will actually work. There is some issue with the authentication. That is the only thing. So this is one more example, right? The API. So web scraping, API, you can do both of them. Now another example, what we can do with Power Query is, let me just close this one. Let me open the data operations. You can also do a lot of data operations using Power Query. Now if you look at this data, there are 2 things you can observe. The first thing is, how is data growing? So when I say how is data growing, in which direction? So let's say tomorrow I get more regions, right? I have more regions. Tomorrow, let's say the company is expanding and more regions are coming into picture. So what will happen? Here there will be, let's say, northwest, a new region will come. So the data will grow in this direction. So when more regions will come, the data will grow from top to bottom. Let's say if I get 2016 data, then the data will go from left to right. So 2016, 2017, it will grow. So if I get more years, my data will grow from left to right. Now this is a bad practice. Whenever you are taking any kind of data source, it should only grow from top to bottom. So when more records come, they should get added at the bottom. You should not get a data source which grows in two directions. That is not a good practice. So if you do not want the data to grow in two directions, what you can do is you can do something called direction of the growth of the data. So I'll just show you how it works. Now if you look at this data, there are two headers. The first header is the years. So this is one header. The second header are the regions. What unpivoting will do is it will make sure that you have only single header. So if you don't unpivot, right now you have two headers. Because two headers are there, your data is growing in two different directions, from left to right and from top to bottom. Now what I will do is I will go to data and I'll put this into Power Query. So I'm taking this into Power Query and then I will say unpivot using other columns. And then I will say year. Now you just observe this, don't look at the technical part. You can always learn the technical part, just look at the business side. So I'll click OK. Now if you look at this data, even if I get more regions or more years, my data will only go from top to bottom. My data will not go from left to right. But if you look at the original data, my data is growing in two directions. So from top to bottom and from left to right. So the reason why you need to have only this direction of data, because you can't use slicers. For example, if this is the data, if I try to create a pivot table, just watch this. This is the original data and I'll go to insert and I'll create a pivot table. Now if you look at the pivot table, I'm having years separately like this. I can only put regions and I can put years like this, but I can't filter my years. Every time years get added, more and more columns will be added here. But if I try to create a pivot table with the transformed data, so this one I'm selecting and I'm inserting a pivot table. Now if you look at pivot table, this one, I can actually select the years. So here I can here I can put year. Actually I can filter the years in whichever way I want. Even if more years are there, automatically the data will come. But if you look at the original data here, all the years are coming like this separately, right? This is not dynamic. So that is the reason why you should always transform your data from this to this. So this can be done only with unpivot. If you try to do this operation manually, it will take a lot of time. So this is one of the most useful things which will help you to build better data models. Whenever you are building any data model or whenever you are dealing with very complicated set of data, unpivot becomes very, very important, because generally when you talk about data, we always prepare data like this, for the meetings, for the presentation, etc. But this is not a good practice. Always think from a developer perspective. So there are two perspectives, end user and a developer. As a developer, as an end user, this is good. This is looking good for a business user. But for a developer, if you want to build a very good, solid, efficient data model, then you should always convert this data source into this structure. Then only you will be able to use pivot tables and other things very efficiently. Otherwise, your pivot table is going to look like this. It is not going to be efficient. So that is one example, like how you can use Power Query to do a lot of operations like pivot, unpivot, get the data from the website, get the data from SAP. So a lot of things you can do. And the next case study which I want to talk about is fuzzy logic. Now fuzzy logic is also very, very important, and probably this is something which many people don't know. And when I showed this for the first time to someone, they really got suppressed. I mean, they thought they require Python or some machine learning algorithm to solve a problem. Now I'll show you that case study. So how fuzzy logic can help you. So let me open the fuzzy logic file and let me walk you through this case study, how it works. Now I have sales of January, sales of February. There is a mismatch. There is a mismatch. If you look at Sanjay Chandra, if you look at this, and if you look at this, the person is the same. I mean, by looking at the names, we can say that both are same people. But in the date period, and here you have a space. So here you have some uppercase. I mean, you have a proper case. Sorry, here you have a proper case, and here you have a lower case. So there are a lot of differences. Now, if I try to do a lookup function, for example, if I want to compare sales of February and January, and if I do a lookup function, if I do lookup like this, what will happen is lookups will not work. Lookups will only work when your data is matching, when both of these are matching. When the data is mismatched, then you can't use a lookup function. So lookup function can give you an error. So what you have to do is, and similarly, if you look at the second example, this one, if you would say, here what is happening? So here a letter is missing. And also there is a period here, like the dot is there. Here two problems. The letter is missing. So here you have LL, U is missing. So U letter is missing. But here you have U letter. And here you have space. So there is a lot of mismatch. Now, if you have data like this in real time scenario, you will always get data like this. You will never get a perfect data. So to resolve this issue, if you want to compare the sales of January and February, you don't need machine learning, you don't need Python. You just need fuzzy logic. And fuzzy logic is right built-in feature in Power Query. So let's see how fuzzy logic will work. So as you can see, lookups have failed. And there is no way that you can actually match this and this. You can never match them. So what I will show you is, first, let me get them into Power Query. So I'll go to data and I'll bring it to Power Query. So this is January sales. So this is January sales. And then I'll also bring my February sales into Power Query. So I have January sales and February sales. Now what I'll do is I'll go to merge queries. And then I'll select my second table and I'll select my customer name in some, right, customer name. And then there is one option called fuzzy matching. So I'll select the fuzzy match and it says 5 out of 5 rows, all 5 rows are matched. If I don't check this, it says 0 are matching because it is trying to see the exact match. When I say fuzzy logic, what will happen is fuzzy logic will actually help you to match items which are close to each other. So it is like machine learning, you can say, like how, we can detect objects and other things. So this also works very, very similar to that. So if I select fuzzy logic and if I try to click OK, and if I expand this table, you see both are matching here. Let me just load this data and let me just show you this. So if you see this, Power Query has actually matched them. You see this. It has matched exactly whatever are there. Now let me do one thing. Let me change the order of this. Let me change like this. February will be in this order. And let's say January will be in this order. Let me again go back to Power Query. I'm changing the order of the data. Right? So again, I'll try to refresh it. See, I changed the order, but still it is detecting. Now Bruce Banner is first. Now if you look at this, if I just go and refresh this, you see, still it is able to match it. So this is called fuzzy logic. Now where can we use fuzzy logic is, fuzzy logic is used for partial match. So let's say you feel that there is a 70% match, or let's say 80% match. So in these cases, you go with fuzzy logic. If you have 100% match, you go with lookups. You go with lookup function or you go with data modeling. You can simply connect two tables together. if you have 100% match. But if you have 70% or 80% match, then you have to go with fuzzy logic in Power Query. So that will actually help you to deal with unclean data like this, right? So if you look at this also, Captain America, I is missing. In Peter Parker, there is a space and a period. Here it is different. So everything is a mismatch, but using fuzzy logic, we are able to match both of them. So this is how fuzzy logic works in Power Query. Now let me talk about the last case study, which is joins. Now joins is also very, very important. It works very similar to fuzzy logic, I can say. So let me close this file. And let me open a case study which is about customer loyalty, right? Now I have some customers. So let me rename this as January sales. So let me rename the one to avoid the confusion. This is, yeah. Okay. Now let's see how joins are going to work. Joins are also very important. If you know SQL, joins is a familiar concept, but many business users, they are not aware of SQL. So many people think that joins is only related to SQL, but joins is supported by Power Query, right? So fuzzy logic is there, and also you have joins. Both are supported by Power Query, but very few people are actually aware of it, even though it is available. So I'll show how it works. Now I have some customers in January. So this is January 2022. And then I have some customers in February. Now I want to know the loyalty of the customers. Loyalty means what? Customers who purchased both in January and February. Similarly, I want to know my lost customers. Lost customers are the one who purchased in January but not in February. New customers. New customers are the one who purchased in February but not in January. So basically, I want to know my, let's say you're doing some marketing analytics. So loyalty, you want to know, right? How many people are my loyal users? Which customers have purchased both this year and last year? What is the retention rate? All these things you want to calculate. So when you want to do these kinds of operations, with small amount of data, you can do manual work. There is no issue. You can use filter function. You can use lookups. There are so many logics which you can use. But if you want an accurate way of doing this, Power Query is always the best option, because Power Query will assess everything before it actually performs any operation. So let's say I want to know the common customers between this and this. If you see, I think the common customers will be these 11, 12, 13, 14, and here also I have 11, 12, 13, 14. So I have 4 common customers. Because the data is small here, I'm able to see the data and I'm able to understand what it is. But imagine there are millions of records and I want to find out my loyal customers. So when you're talking about very big data, then Power Query will come into picture when you have millions of records. So that's where joins will come into picture. So I'll show you how joins work. So first, I'll convert this into a table and bring it into Power Query. So this is January sales. Similarly, I'll go to February and I'll take this to Power Query. Now I have my February sales. Now I have sales of 2 months. Now I want to see the loyal customers. So what I'll do is I'll go to merge queries and then I will say merge queries as new. I have January sales and February sales. Now I want to get the common customers. Now here itself you can see there are different options for joins. If you say inner join, it will only bring the matching rows. Here itself you see, right? Only 4 are matching. If I click OK, only these 4 customers are there. 11, 12, 13, 14. The customers who are common between both of them. Let's say, so let me expand this. So only I can see these 2 customers. So this is inner join. So here we are talking about loyal customers. Let's say I want to know about new customers. I'll go to merge queries again. I'll select my February sales. I'll select my February sales. And I want only my lost customers customers who purchased in January but not in February. And I'll click OK. So these are the customers who purchased only in January. As you can see, only 1 to 10, because 11, 12, 13, 14 are loyal customers. These customers are loyal. These customers are lost customers. That means they purchased in January. And if I expand the February table, you will see null values. These customers are not present in February. These are only present in January. Similarly, I want to know my new customers. So I'll go here. I'll select February sales. And then I will say write anti-join and click OK. And here I am able to see only my customers who are in February but not in January. So January sales is showing null, February is showing some value. These are new customers. So like this, you can actually do a lot of analytics as well, like with respect to your retention rate, lost customers, and also the new customers. And a similar case you can do even with your HR data. So let's say if you are a HR, okay, let's say if you are a HR and you have data of January employees and February employees, right? Now you want to know which employees have left the organization. Then you can simply apply left anti-join. Let's say you want to know which employees are common between both of the months, like who are the ones who are still working with the organization. Then you can apply inner join. Let's say you want to know who have joined in February. Then again you can apply right anti-join. So like that with joins, you have HR applications. You can apply this in finance, supply chain, operations, etc. In supply chain, for example, let's say you want to know about different vendors. So for example, you want to know compared to last year, how much the vendor has supplied this year. So let's say last year he has supplied 10 units. This time, let's say company has purchased 20 units. You want to find the vendors who are common between last year and this year. Or let's say you want to do finance. In finance, let's say you are talking about debtors list. Right, debtors list, you want to know which debtors are common, which debtors have come newly, which debtors you have already cleared. So like this, you can use it in finance also. So this is something which is very, very helpful in SQL as well as in Excel. Generally, people use joins in SQL, but in Excel also you can use these joins and you can do a lot of analytics with this, right? And if you want to do this manually, it takes a lot of time. So that's why I always suggest learn Power Query so that you can automate most of these things. And in Power BI also, right now, if you look at Power Query here, for example, let me show you. If you look at Power Query, this is Power Query in Excel. Now let me show you Power Query in Power BI. Let me open Power BI and show you and compare both of them, like how they look each other. Now, if I go to transform data in Power BI, if I go here, so this is Power Query Editor in Power BI, and this is Power Query Editor in Excel. As you can see, both are looking almost the same. So this is Power BI and this is Excel. It is almost looking the same. But in Power BI, Power Query is more powerful because in Power BI, you have Azure Machine Learning, you can do text analytics, and also you can use R and Python as well. So these are also supported. These are some additional features which are available only on Power BI, but almost the functionality is the same. Maybe the layout might be different, but the functionality, transform tab. So here also you have transform tab. So as you can see, it is the same. So this is just a comparison between Power Query on Excel and Power Query on Power BI. So the advantage is if you learn this in one tool, learning it in another tool is very easy. And Power Query, if you ask me, you don't need to learn the code. For example, if you go to Power Query Editor, and if you go to Advanced Editor, you will see a lot of code in the background. For majority of the use cases, for 80% of the use cases, you don't need to write any code. Everything can be done by clicking these buttons. So you have a lot of operations here. But there will be some requirements. For example, I showed you, right, API. If you want to get the data from API, there are some situations where you need to know how to write the code. Now, whatever you are seeing here, whatever code you are seeing here, this is called M code. Okay. So I'll just note it down somewhere. So this is called M code. So this is again a different language, you can say. Power Query uses M code. If you are using Power Pivot in Excel, you use DAX. If you are using, then you have Excel formulas. Then you have VBA. Then you have TypeScript. So there are so many concepts within Excel, right? So all are different. So TypeScript is different, VBA is different, Excel formulas are different. Sorry, just Term code is different, DAX is different. These are five different languages which you can use within Excel, right? Most of us are familiar only with Excel formulas, but actually, if you look at Excel, Excel supports all these five. So if you are looking to master Excel, then you need to know all these five, right? TypeScript is something new and it has a lot of new features. I think TypeScript is going to become very big after M code. So until now, M code has been like very sensational because it is there on Power BI as well, but TypeScript is also catching up. So if you are looking forward to upskill yourself in Excel, make sure to learn M code as well as TypeScript. Both are going to help you a lot, right? So if you ask me, compared to VBA, among this, which one should you learn? I would recommend M code, I would recommend TypeScript, and I would recommend DAX, because these three are going to help you in many other ways as well, right? And if you learn TypeScript, so TypeScript is very similar to JavaScript, they are different, but it will also help you to learn Power Platform. So your knowledge will become transferable. Whatever you are learning in Excel, you can apply it in other platforms as well. So that's the reason why I recommend these three if you are thinking of upskilling yourself. So that is about the Power Query session today. I hope you found the session insightful and got relevant insights. You can ask the questions now.
Awesome. Okay, so Michael sends a source. If you can check the this thing, I call it the chat box. So he said like maybe you missed the step using the source code.
1 second, let me just check.
Okay. So for the JSON.5, when you're trying to get, when you're trying to scrape the data from the website.
Okay, so if you want to convert the data from JSON format in Power Query, you have to use two. Let me just share the screen again. Let me know you can see. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Hello?
Not yet. It's not up. Maybe you can try stop like off your camera so the network can be better or something.
Is it visible?
It's not visible. It's not visible. Okay, it's coming up. It's coming up.
I will type it.
It's up. It's coming up. It's coming up. It's coming up.
Okay, fine. Let me share it again.
Just wait.
Yeah,
but
just give me a moment.
As that is going on, I think so. Michael sent. You can also check the group chat also. So Michael sent the way you can connect to the website, the JavaScript website, the JSON file website, when you're trying to connect to Indian Power system using Power Query, using the M language.
So these are the two functions which you have to use: JSON.document and web contents. So you have to use both the formulas. This is a nested formula, right? So you have to use something like JSON.document, and then you will say web.contents, and then here you will type the URL. And you close the bracket. So this is the actual formula to use in M code.
So okay, well you've stopped sharing your screen actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so someone's asking that Sanjay, how to learn M language? I find it a little bit hard to find the proper thing for it.
Okay, so if you are learning M language, you don't need to learn like a proper programming language. What you have to learn is you just have to learn how to read the code and modify the code. That's it. You don't need to learn the formulas and functions. When I say you have to learn M language, you just need to know how to copy paste the codes. So on the internet, you can find a lot of templates available. You just need to know how to edit the code, how to copy the code, how to paste the code, how to reuse the code. That's the only thing which you need to know.
Okay, awesome. I'm actually thinking of some things I can try with the whole API stuff. But it's actually cool. It's cool. Okay, if you have any questions, I'm checking. Okay, so people are asking how to learn M language. Michael Lafusi dropped the solution to how you go about getting data from the Indian power line, the power system, the nuclear energy. So everyone is saying nice presentation and everything. So If you have any question, you can put your question in the chat box or you can raise your hand. Okay, I can see someone hand is up. Let me make you a speaker. That's PV.
Okay. Okay, 1 second. I think Michael has given the code. The HTTP has to be proper. I'll just show it.
Yeah,
I'll just
you
share
said
my
there's not.
screen and-
Maybe because you use the S, which stands for secure or something.
Can you see my screen now? Is my screen visible?
It's still coming up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's up. It's up now. It's up now.
Okay. So you go to other sources and go to blank query, and you go to advanced editor, and here you say JSON.document web.contents, and then you put this HTTP. Earlier it was HTTPS. You put HTTP, and I think here I have to put and if you click OK, as you can see, I got records. I'll convert it to a table,
Yeah.
and then I'll expand this.
Awesome.
I got all the data of all India power capacity of different states, regions, gas, hydro, RES, and everything. I'm able to get it.
Okay, I think
So this got converted from JSON and it got converted to a table. So if you look at the code also, the source is actually from the website. It is not the local source. It is not a local file. So that's how you can actually use an API.
Okay, awesome,
Okay,
awesome, awesome.
Stop sharing my screen.
Okay, if you have any question, someone is asking, okay, can you once show us how to unpivot again? So that's for PV. It's actually you can show how to unpivot column again.
Okay, let me show it again. Just a moment. Let me know if my screen is visible.
It's coming up. Yes, it's
Is my
visible
screen
now. Yes, yes.
Okay. So this is the data source.
Okay.
So right click the column which is constant and then say unpivot other columns. Right click and say unpivot other columns and you'll get the data and you can rename it. So this one is year, this one is sales, and then you say close and load. Right click and say unpivot other columns and you'll get it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, someone is asking about the API. How do you unease the data from API? That's
okay. So if you are having nested API kind of thing, one way to approach it is joins. You can have separate queries and you can join them. That is one way. And another way which you can implement that is you can actually get into the right part. Like if you want the entire data, then you need to have separate queries and you can apply a join. But if you want only part of the data, then you can directly go within that nested loop, whichever you want. But what I would recommend is whenever you are using any API, you just go to the documentation and just refer to it once, because in the documentation you may have multiple ways of accessing the data, the input as well as the output. So maybe if you are applying one kind of input, you may have a nested query. Maybe if you are applying some kind of other parameters, because every organization will give you 2-3 ways to access the data. It is not just a single way. So in most of the APIs, you just try 2-3 methods and you will be able to get the data very straightforward.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, everyone has been saying thank you so far. It's been amazing. It's been amazing so far. It's been amazing. So Sanjay, do you have usually this is not the first time you're in our section, right? So we usually ask 2 questions at the end of the section. The first one is how you started your old data journey, and also what advice you have for people just starting out in the field of data analysis.
Okay, the first advice I would give is don't ignore Excel. Don't go to Python. First learn Excel, then learn other tools. Start your data journey with Excel. That would be the first advice.
So, and also, I start your old data analysis journey. If you want to share it with us.
Yeah. So I started my data analysis journey with Excel, and I spent almost 6 months learning Excel, all the concepts like tables, I mean the little bit of VBA, Power Query, Power Pivot, everything, charts. So I learned almost 6 months worth of Excel. I mean, I spent 6 months to learn Excel, and then I was able to get into Power BI. Then I got into SQL. I mean, around the same time, and now I started learning, and I also already started implementing Power Apps, Power Automate, and even the virtual agents as well. But what helped me a lot during my journey is Excel. If you are good with Excel, it is easy to handle any other data source, because if you are not from a coding background, if you never done coding before, then always start your journey with Excel. If you are already from coding background, if you are from computer science background, then probably you can learn any tool in any order. There is no issue. But Excel will give you a lot of value addition in terms of logical thinking, and also in terms of your productivity at your day-to-day work.
It's awesome. So I want to send some things now. So for the recording we made available on our YouTube channel. So I've sent a link, so you can always check it out. So that's the link to our YouTube channel. So the recording, this session is being recorded. So before the end of tomorrow, you should get the recording. And also, Sanjay, thank you very much. Thank you so much. We learned a lot. Even I got something that I will actually try out. I just tried it when you're doing it and it worked. So awesome. Okay, so we're having another section by 6:30. So let me just share my screen. So the session is by 6, not by 6:30, not by 6. So we're having a Power BI section. So I'll share my screen now. So this topic is Achievement Unlocked, upgrading your visual and reports. It's going to be presented by Reed Evan. So it's also a Microsoft MVP. So by 6:30, you guys can join. It's also a free webinar, so I'll paste the link also. And Sanjay, you are awesome also. I really learned a lot. We all learned a lot. Thank you very much. And you also came 9 minutes because of the whole change in schedule and everything. You made yourself available. Really appreciate it. Thank you for your supports and everything. So I think that's all for today. I'll stop sharing my screen. I'll stop recording. So bye guys, and do have a lovely